powerful people, they simply often lack good information. And this has to be something we'll be talking about the next week. So-called intelligence agencies are often missing the human angle. Ukraine's economy is strong in many ways because it is local, because it's locally rooted.
Before we continue, we invite you to follow our channel, the only American show reporting live from Ukraine every day.
Good evening, this is Joe Lindsley, American, talking to you from Ukraine on Radio War Day, our daily war journal. And the big news today, this morning, we had the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Sir Keir Starmer, arrived, of course, by an overnight train, as most foreign leaders arrive. He arrived in Kyiv this morning, and not long after he arrived, there was a Russian drone attack upon the center of Kyiv city, including very close to where it seemed that President Zelensky and Sir Keir were meeting. In fact, I was on the phone with someone in Kyiv who said she heard the sounds of the drones and the air defense, and I said, "Oh, whoa, isn't Sir Keir is there right now?" And this is a bit unusual to have someone of the stature of the leader of the United Kingdom in Kyiv when there's an attack. I think of when, for example, when President Biden came to Kyiv almost a couple of years ago now, everyone kind of knew that nothing was going to happen that day. And interestingly, President Biden arrived by train, just as Sir Keir did. And this was pretty amazing for the President of the United States back then to arrive by train. Usually the President only travels in his own vehicles. And I don't think we'll see that from Trump. I can't imagine seeing President Trump taking a train to Kyiv. But there's also a positive side to that. It means that if President Trump is ever to visit Kyiv, it'll be by a plane, by Air Force One, in a very commanding way, saying, "Don't mess with us." So these are some interesting dynamics of this, but it is strange and of course unsettling that while the Prime Minister of the UK is here, that the Russians would attack so close to the Prime Minister. So important thing to note. And of course, it makes me think a little bit of Churchill in World War II. Today in Kyiv, Sir Keir announced this new partnership, this new agreement. Still has to be approved by Parliament, but a new agreement with Ukraine for 100 years. That sounds a bit extraordinary, right? What does that mean? Firstly, I thought that in the center of Kyiv, not far from where Sir Keir was today, near the cathedral, the Golden Dome Cathedral of St. Michael the Archangel, there's a restaurant by Ukraine's most famous chef, and it's called Sto Kyiv Tomu Viperd. Fast forward 100 years. Very interestingly, that's the name of the restaurant. And today, Sir Keir announced that the United Kingdom is creating a 100-year partnership with Ukraine. And in some ways, it sounds. I mean, it's a sign that this is a long-term thing, and really, see a deep alignment of values. So I think that's positive in many ways. But when I talk to Ukrainians, one comment I heard is, well, we had the Budapest memorandum just 20 years ago, and that meant nothing. And what matters more than talking about long-term things is what are you going to do in the here and now, so that Ukraine can actually win and hold on. And that really is the pressing question. And there's some talk now about whether or not, if there is some kind of negotiation, would the UK and France and other countries send troops, peacekeeping troops, to Ukraine. And this sort of conversation is the same as when we talk about rebuilding. I mean, it's a nice thing to talk about, but there's things that can be done now. Giving Ukraine the weapons they need, as we keep saying, giving Ukraine permission to hit the Russian missile launch points, and stopping the Russian oil. Those things, just stop oil. Those things actually can have a great impact now. But so often we see people talking about things that can happen in the future. And this reminds me of a point that I heard Marco Rubio say during his confirmation hearing yesterday. I was taking a walk, listening to the hearing through the snowy streets of medieval Lviv. Beautiful, beautiful scene. Hear the bells of the churches ringing, the bells of the streetcar ringing as well, and the city is lovely, full of life. You still have Christmas decorations up, and I'm listening to Marco Rubio, Senator Rubio, now Trump's nominee to be Secretary of State, talking about how Ukraine is so destroyed and it's going to take so much to rebuild it. And if you're here, you know that, okay, yeah, that applies to the cities that Russia has totally destroyed in Donbass. But most of the country is actually a lovely, thriving place. And places even like Kharkiv, just 30 miles from Russia, which gets hit so heavily, so often, Ukrainians rebuild. I mean, places they get bombed are rebuilt within a few weeks. That part of the story is not told. This absolute, sort of resilient mentality and actions among the people. And I think, as so often is the case, it's the powerful people, they simply often lack good information. And this has to be something we'll be talking about the next weeks. But I think also our so-called intelligence agencies are often missing the human angle and the real reality on the ground, um, beyond the GDP. And that brings up this point about uh, a lot of people, on the side of Ukraine have been pretty gleeful about the collapse in Russia of the economy, of the high level, the statistics of Russian GDP, but Senator Rubio did make this good point during his testimony, during his confirmation hearing. He said, you know, that doesn't give the full picture. Russia is a barbaric economy. They don't, the nice GDP figures and all that don't necessarily matter or mean so much there. Russia has tons of resources, and it's created a military economy. And because of the revenue it receives from oil from around the world, including from Europe, it's quite strong. And even if some of the numbers look bad and look like this collapse could be imminent, if you look at other factors, look at what Russia needs to be a war economy, it's still strong. And I think Senator Rubio made that point well. And this is where we do have to look at a lot, beyond those statistics and not be too gleeful, and realizing the real threat we face. And on the other hand, similarly, looking at Ukraine, um, I mean, I've known this since before the full scale invasion. Ukraine's economy is strong in many ways because it is local, because it's locally rooted, um, and because a lot of transactions happen locally, because people know how to grow things in their gardens. Uh, that is, I think, something that Americans are sort of pining for, but that really is very strong here. And so even if the numbers don't always look great, you can still have a healthy society. And I realized a lot of the comments about recent discussions of the conscription age in Ukraine. That Ukraine should have, okay, even if you're not going to mobilize everyone to go to the front lines, everyone should somehow be conscripted, to be part of the war effort. And I think, this is what you see in Israel, where, and other countries too, of course, but where, everyone has to serve officially for a couple years in the military from a young age. And Ukraine, still, I mean, if you're, as soon as you're an adult, if you're an adult man from 18 to 25, you can't be conscripted into the military. And they've sort of preserved the space. But here's a very important point about Ukrainian civil society. As a freedom loving country, and as a country that sort of comes from the grassroots and that sort of really rejects authority, uh, it's better actually not to have everyone subsumed under the military structure, because then you're part of the bureaucracy, a lot of which still has vestiges of the Soviet era. And so if you're subsumed into that bureaucracy, you actually can become less effective. In fact, I know many great artists and warriors and others who, were sort of put into places in the military where their talents were of little use, and it became very frustrating. This is sometimes getting fixed, but still is a problem. And so one of the great things, though, I mean, you're going to encounter that in any country. So one of the great things about Ukraine is that the things you can do without having to wait for the government to do it for you, or without having to be part of that official structure. And that's so much what I see here. It's the not only the various different brigades that have a little bit of autonomy, but the volunteer groups. The school teachers and the choir singers who go, after work to make drones. All the volunteer efforts and the young guys who are not at conscription age, who are still training to be ready, and who in their free time between university or work go to deliver supplies. They go to the front. They bring things to their friends and fathers and uncles who are there at the front lines, and they are fully a part of it. And again, you're not going to see that measured. There's no, there's going to be no statistics on that. But that is the mood and the mentality here, and that's really a large part of this. What keeps Ukraine sustained. In the same way, of the women here in Western Ukraine that cook meals for the soldiers at the front. These stats are not easily quantifiable. The intelligence agencies miss them, but it really is the key to a nation that won't give up and that believes in freedom. And so, with that, rather than looking to the next 100 years, which laudable as though it is, looking to the next few days, actually, as we approach the inauguration of Trump, we'll keep reporting here. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, etc. here on YouTube, on Instagram, and on X. This is Joe Lindsley reporting every single day from Ukraine. And we'll take a look now at our reels for the day. And thank you so much, as always, for listening. Till tomorrow.
But there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance. Winston Churchill said the destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals. And he said there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we like it or not, spells duty. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
We are leaving the age of the dance macabre, a time of selfishness, decay, and dishonor, a world where leaders think only of themselves, where profit and power come before virtue and valor. Now, a new age is dawning, one of hope, honor, and heroes. Ukrainians have been holding the line.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Showing us what it means to live for Deus et Patria, God and country. Hope survives, heroes endure, honor prevails.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with a glory in his bosom.
Are you ready to resist? Are you ready to win?
As he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. His truth is marching on.
Hillary. She cannot beat Trump. Obama, Soros, Brian Lewis, Joe. Little fucking Joe Lindsley.
Joe Lindsley is quickly becoming an American treasure in broadcasting.
Well,